For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Did you know that 97% of Indians believe in God and that 60% of them pray daily? Did you know that the business of religion generates an annual turnover of $50 billion in India? Hello and welcome to another edition of Capital Calculus. I am your host Anil Padmanabhan. We have all heard of FinTech, Climate Tech, Clean Tech, Agri-Tech. But now there's a new kid on the block. It's called Faithtech. It gamifies faith, enabling devotion and spiritual pursuits like yoga to be available on your smartphone. Given that almost everybody in India is a believer, the potential for Faithtech is huge. Not surprisingly, this convergence of faith and tech is already spawning a wave of spiritual entrepreneurs. To understand why and more, we spoke to Aryaman. He's the founder of Prophetic Ventures, an early-stage venture capital fund. I began by asking Aryaman to unpack the idea of Faithtech.
So as the name suggests, Faithtech refers to a class of technology companies that are focusing on the religion and devotion segment. To be honest with you, I'm not sure why it's taken such a long time for these kinds of companies to emerge, given the absolutely enormous size of the population here that is deeply religious and the large spending that happens every year on religion. So talking just about the Hindu religion, there are over 1 billion Hindus in India, and they're estimated to spend around $50 billion worth every year on Hindu religious activities such as pilgrimages, their home temples, and those sorts of things. So Faithtech is about those companies that are going after this market.
What does it take to make a spiritual entrepreneur then?
Yeah, I think, I've not spoken to too many of them, but the ones that I have had a chance to speak to in detail, it seems like they've had childhood experiences of religion that have helped inform how they see the market now. So, for example, Prashant Sachan, who is the co-founder and CEO of, or the founder and CEO rather of Shri Mander, the app that you just referred to, he grew up in a religious household and he saw his family rely a lot on religion to get past days of stress and difficulty, because they went through some difficulties as a family, just like most families in India do. And they turned to religion. So later on, when he was thinking of which industry to start a company in, he was thinking about which are the most important problems to the Indian population, which things do they care about the most, which things are, very crucial to their lives, their daily lives. And he thought about religion. And I'm sure that other, founders in this space, other entrepreneurs would have a similar view, because it's impossible to grow up in India and not see religion on a daily basis almost. So I think it seems like a very natural progression for entrepreneurs to look at this space versus other spaces which, maybe are things that you don't come across that often in your daily life.
What then is the commercial potential of gamifying faith?
I think that the ceiling is quite hard to see in this category, simply because of the fact that people are so wedded to this thing, and they have such strong daily habits to go and pray and such a high propensity to spend on this space, that a company that's able to actually channel all of this religious fervor and devotion into a business model can make a lot of money, I think. A lot of people go on pilgrimages once in their lifetime, maybe, however often they can, to go see, let's say, Tirupati Balaji temple, to go visit Somnath or Varanasi. For most families in this country, that is very expensive, and it's affordable, maybe just once in their whole lives. But it's a huge deal for them to be able to go there, because they can go, they can offer prayers, they can do chadhawa, they can get prasads from there, for their whole families. And then when they give that prasad to their loved ones and to the people in their communities, it's a big deal for them. So, but of course, it comes with that cost of booking a train ticket, or however you plan your travel, and then you have to go and go return, and all of it can be quite logistically and monetarily challenging. So Shri Mander can help remove, or apps like that can actually help people express this devotion without having to expend those kinds of resources or that much time.
Bringing technological innovation to the pursuit of spirituality and well-being is not new. The West already has a head start, and scholars like Kate Stockley argue that this is largely because of the big breakthroughs that have been achieved in brain science, and this being married with tech. In fact, she wrote a book called Faith, capturing this convergence between faith and technology. Let us listen in to the interview she granted during the book tour.
Are harnessing state-of-the-art brain science to not only increase our understanding of spiritual and religious experiences, including deep meditative states and mystical experiences like ego dissolution and the sensation or sort of the knowledge of oneness and unity with all, but also to actually help bring about these types of experiences. So they see that such experiences can be powerfully transformative in people's lives, but are also somewhat mysterious and kind of elusive, kind of difficult to achieve sometimes requiring years of focused practice and expert guidance and sacrifice throughout life, especially in the case of really deep meditative states. So the folks I'm talking about today are asking the question, look, if we can see what these experiences look like in the brain using brain imaging equipment, by sensing brain waves, things like that, then maybe we can actually stimulate the brain or guide the brain into these states and help more people benefit from them, right? Maybe we can actually democratize this process and help more people reap the potentially life-altering benefits of spiritual experience. So that's sort of what these folks are interested in doing. So the research that I'm presenting culminated in the publication of my book, which was co-authored with Wesley Wildman, who's here with us today also, called SpiritTech: The Brave New World of Consciousness Hacking and Enlightenment Engineering. And seeing this emerging tech space, Wesley and I saw something of interest for religious studies scholars like us. We saw how different types of folks are using this science and technology to reimagine their spiritual lives in new ways that we hadn't really considered before, right? These new applications of technology are not just little fringe oddities. Perhaps they were, fairly fringe a few years ago, but at this point, they're really making their way into the mainstream.
At one level, Faithtech is individualizing faith. In other words, it's enabling niche, which, by the way, defines the creator economy.
I can see Faithtech and the creator economy coming together in a certain way. If I look at the creator economy, I see two things. I see one thing, which is that because there are so many more creators, they are all making individualized personal content according to their personalities. Like you said, there's no mass broadcast. It's not the age of there's only one TV channel, everybody watches that. Now, because there are so many creators, you have an infinite choice of who to watch. So everybody can watch something according to their preference. I see, and in this individualization of faith that Shri Mander is doing, you see people are able to access the temple in their own way. They can customize their own temple slightly. They can choose to worship in a particular way. But where I see the creator economy angle come in is I see that, so, maybe at some point we'll talk about what Shri Mander does, but just to give a brief overview of one feature that they have a feature where users can pay a subscription fee and get access to guided meditations or, prayer sessions or religious discourses by creators, essentially, right? Those creators may be historians, they may be priests, they may be, some other spiritual teachers.
Ariman did a detailed review of an Indian faith tech in his Substack newsletter. I was curious to know as to why he picked the example of Shri Mander.
I think that the short answer is sheer size. Shri Mander is the biggest faith tech app that I have come across personally. I've seen other Faithtech apps. I've seen an app for Christians. There's a Bible app that has over 100 million installs. There's an app for Muslims which has over 100 million installs. But these are not Indian companies. I didn't have access to them in the same way that I had access through some mutual connections to the Shri Mander team. So Shri Mander was the biggest app built in India for the Indian religious context. And as an investor and as a writer, I'm interested in India. So that's why I chose Shri Mander, because they were the biggest and they had, in my opinion, the most sophisticated product. And they were approaching this space with the most refined and kind of like tech-forward approach out of any of the other companies that I looked at.
Okay, can you share with us some metrics to explain, the size and this distribution of Shri Mander, who all kind of use it, the demography, etc.?
Yeah, sure. So Shri Mander has over 10 million users. So it's been installed more than 10 million times. It launched in late, a couple of years ago. So it's barely been 2 years since it launched. So 10 million users across India and from various parts of the world. So many users, for example, in the USA, Germany, Singapore, Nepal, countries like that. Currently, Shri Mander has only 4 languages. So it only comes in Hindi, Marathi, Rajasthani, and Gujarati. So one would assume that the users come mainly from those, communities that are familiar with these languages. Of course, all Hindus, because it's an app for Hindus. So that's a little bit about the size. 3 million of the 10 million users use the app every month. And in terms of the demographics, I don't have the figure off the top of my head, but I know that the 40 to 60 age range in Shri Mander is almost 35 to 40%. So that's larger than other consumer internet apps out there, which mainly have younger user bases. While Shri Mander does, of course, have a fairly even distribution. People from 18 onwards are using the app, but it doesn't have a drop-off as the users get older in the same way that other apps do, like your Swiggies or your gaming apps, etc.
Faithtech is going to get a big leg up with the launch of 5G, which in turn sets the stage for AR. Augmented reality, as you know, enables the integration of an individual's environment along with their information in real time.
Well, I think 5G will certainly make the experience smoother. So if someone is watching a temple live stream, that can be streamed in real time with greater fidelity, greater sort of latency in the 5G era. Any sort of like live activities or any will be made better with 5G. And I think the same goes for AR, VR as well. You can probably build more immersive experiences where people can feel like they are actually at the temple, physically, so that they can look around. Maybe if there's a 360 camera at the temple, that whole experience can just be broadcast in 3D in real time, in VR, sorry. So those seem like quite interesting sort of knock-on effects of those technologies in the religious domain.
It is clear then that the idea of technologically mediated spiritual experience is rapidly taking root in India. In fact, homegrown spiritual entrepreneurs are being courted by risk capital. It won't be long before India throws up a unicorn in Faithtech. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to StratNewsGlobal on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates. And please do share your thoughts and insights with us. I'm available on Twitter @Capital Calculus. I'll be back next week with another episode. Till then, stay safe.